Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by CoolSomething.com, mana traders, as well as Twitch subs and Patreon supporters just like you. My name is Evan Irwin, and get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Power Dragon.
What's up, everybody? It's almost time for the yearly Magic adventure to Vegas.
Woo! Ruben Bressler.
Well, yeah, I'm not doing that one this year personally, but I do love that after so many years of not touching Las Vegas, it appears as if Vegas is home.
Wow. All right. Well, that's cool too. If you missed our pre-show, we had a special appearance by Erin Campbell. That was super fun. To catch up with her and talk about things and or stuff. And if you missed it, that patrons get access to our extended version right after the show. We paste it to Patreon immediately. And $5 and up gets you access to that, our Discord, all sorts of cool stuff, including our Wacky and Wild Baldur's Gate 3 run.
That's right.
That we, thanks to a wonderful viewer, found Dinosaur Island last time.
That's right, which did not find the first time I played.
Yeah, that was incredible and super fun, and check that out. So we kick it off with our first pick and our promo code reminder. Visit CoolStuffInc.com and use the promo code MagicMics to save 5% off anything in the store, single, sealed supplies, whatever you want. Get 5% off and show your support by using promo code MagicMics next time you order from there. And we're going to support your favorite streamer with your suggestions in the show to see who we raid tonight on Twitch. Thanks to CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every single day. Now, these are, and I was talking a little about this in the pre-show, we are in somewhat of a lull period. And honestly, I'm kind of okay with that. We've hit a point where, at least in the last year-ish or so, we have been in constant, and I mean constant, release after release after release. And yes, this has been happening for many years, but it feels like this past year in particular was just like a roller coaster after roller coaster after roller coaster of release.
Yeah.
So
Well, this is the warm-up. We're going to get our butt kicked next year, so just get ready.
Listen,
Sure.
let me tell you a little something about next year, all right? There's something coming called Final Fantasy, all right? Now, if you go to Duskmourn, you go to CoolStuffInc.com, my employer, wonderful outlet to buy your stuff, and you go to Duskmourn, you look at supplies. There's 52 different supply things. And we're talking Ultimate Guard and Ultra Pro and deck boxes and playmats and yada, yada, yada. All right, cool. Just Ultra Pro for Final Fantasy has 62 supply products for it.
Wow.
There's going to be an absolute butt ton, and that's a scientific term, a butt ton of supplies and or accessories for Final Fantasy. It's going to be crazy.
How much does Ultra Pro usually make?
Like half that.
Okay.
Yeah, like 6 to 10, depending.
Oh.
And then they put that image on a bunch of different stuff.
Right.
Oh, I see.
So they'll do different images, or they'll do different, like the portfolios. But again, Ultimate Guard now exists, and there's going to be a whole suite of Ultimate Guard stuff that didn't exist before, and that's just Final Fantasy. Like, you think
but you know why though, right?
Because
think about it. Like, Final Fantasy is already super popular.
Oh yeah.
People, if they can get it, are going to want their favorite character. Right? They're going to want a Cloud or a Sephiroth or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
They want to get their exact thing. So if you can make it, they're going to buy it. Like, that's one where they're probably all going to sell, I bet.
Oh, it's going to be real good, because again, like those characters, Final Fantasy is just money. Like, and you can go all the way to the 8-bit stuff and do retro stuff. You can do the super modern stuff or the remake stuff or the OG stuff and the remake stuff, right? Do the PS2 or PlayStation Cloud and, the remake Cloud or whatever. You can run the gamut, because that's the characters are through all these different kind of lenses. So again, that's just what little tiny rumbles we have right now for next year. And for this year, for this moment, in this first pick of the week, MagicCon 2025 announced their lineup. And that was pretty rad. They're going to Chicago in February. That's very cold.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
But in February, 21st through 23rd. Cool. Las Vegas in June.
Great. Also great.
Pretty warm.
Yeah.
June 20th through 22nd, and then Atlanta, Georgia, September 26th through 28th, which is pretty rad.
That should be fine.
Less warm.
That'll be good weather.
Right. The only concern for me will be some of the weather. We have had hurricanes and whatnot nearby recently.
Sure. Hurricane-y.
But yeah, again, beyond like a weird hurricane that rarely happens and goes up a certain way and yada, yada, I think we'll be fine. But overall, I think one of the biggest things, and you noted that in the pre-show Power Dragon, there are no foreign events scheduled.
Yeah, and I'm not sure on that. I tried to pick around and ask some people as to why it might not have happened.
Mm-hmm.
I heard rumblings, and I have no way to confirm this, so take it with a grain of salt, that there were vendors and things that had issues with stuff getting in and out, or, costs with different things. And it kind of makes sense. If those were all hurdles for people, it's probably better to say, hey, let's take a year off, re-examine, figure something out, maybe find other venues in other cities or countries or whatever the case may be. But I do get how that's a feel bad. If you just got Amsterdam and everybody was super excited about it, and from what I was told, at least from the attendee side, it went well. You're probably hoping there's be another one somewhere, and then it didn't happen.
There's a lot to talk about here. I love this little animatic, this little preview video of the road trip driving around the country. I'm so happy that they're leaning into
By the way,
Fibblethip.
And canon, that means Fibblethip has a driver's license.
That's right.
Just want to point that out.
Sure does. Yeah. Gridlock is real on Ravnica. That's a Magic card. Yeah, I'm excited for these. I love Chicago. Chicago's probably my favorite big city in the United States. My sister lives there. Lots of great Magic community and culture there. Particularly in older formats. Cube kind of arose, I believe, from the Chicago-Milwaukee corridor. What a fun way to kick off the year. I'm glad, Chicago's always been a tough city, convention-wise, because of the way that it's built. Having the lake right there means that parking and travel is a nightmare. But if we can get the travel down, if we can get the convention center, I'm all for it. Vegas is Magic's second home at this point.
Yeah.
They put an event there every year. We've decided to embrace the ease of travel, the ease of finding a hotel in the summer, even where it's going to be busier between Memorial Day and Labor Day. Where that's going to be a good time. That's just going to be a nice event. It's going to not be hard to get anywhere, and Vegas is great.
One of the tough things, though, they did put it on Juneteenth weekend, which is
tough.
Yeah.
I mean, on the plus side, it's a holiday weekend at least.
Yep.
I'll take holiday weekends.
Yeah, and then for the third one in Atlanta, I like Atlanta. I got nothing bad to say about Atlanta. I don't have enough familiarity with it because whenever I was running events at SCG, we always were way out in the boonies. We weren't actually in Atlanta. So I'm not sure I've ever been in the city of Atlanta for a Magic tournament. But it's a big city. It's not hard to get around in Atlanta. There's pretty good public transport. So all three of those seem like great picks.
I'll tell you my issue with Atlanta for people who haven't been is the low to mid-level restaurants are not necessarily great. For as big as a city as Atlanta is, customer service, just lots of little things you would think for a major city just aren't there. Now, if you go to the high-end places in Atlanta, they're great, the ones I went to. But if you're just kind of oh, this is a $20 a plate, $30 a plate kind of place, let me go there, and it just doesn't live up. Even if you watch these food reviewers lately, people thought they were just hating on Atlanta, but even the people from Atlanta were going in the comments going nah, y'all, it's bad. It's they feel it.
That reminds me of Knoxville because one of the big things I miss from Orlando is the food. The food in Orlando is amazing. And they also have
great food.
And they also have incentives for business owners to start businesses with unique culinary, options and whatnot. But yeah, in Knoxville we have Cruise Farms, which is a great place, has Jersey cows, which is kind of rare around here, versus the Holstein. And they have a pizza place that uses the cheese from those cows and an ice cream place right next to it, and it's brilliant. That's all we got. That's the long and short. If you go to Knoxville and you're where's the awesome food? I'm go have pizza, go have ice cream. You've done it.
That's tough, man.
The end. Sorry. We don't have famous pizza or nothing either. It's just good because it's got good ingredients. So
if you're within 3 hours of Seattle, this whole state, whole area is just full of amazing, great places to eat. It's fantastic.
Well, I'll say this. I don't know about food, but I do know one thing that Vegas and Atlanta have in common, which is those are great strip club cities. So if you're in the market,
some chicken wings, dog.
Yeah, man. If you're in the market for that as part of your night out, you're eating good in 2025.
I will say this though: all three cities, I think to your point earlier, is they are good for travel as far as international flights all day from. Right. damn near every airport.
Yeah.
Like you don't have trouble getting in at any time. Like they also each of them have very large convention venues. And I think that's a thing people forget about because they're like, why are they doing the same cities again? Why don't they go here? Because like you need to be able to get a room on short notice when you're booking stuff to just get it secure. Probably for what Vegas is, probably 15,000 people, right? Like not a lot of cities just have that available with all the hotel rooms and everything else. It's just like they really might only can use maybe 10 cities in the country potentially.
Well,
You know, once you get over a certain size.
Yeah, this actually came up recently in sort of in Knoxville discussions on Reddit, where they were just like, why doesn't so and so like big artist come to the city? Why do they only go to Nashville? Why do they only go to Atlanta or whatever? Because they literally do not have the infrastructure to bring in the amount of people that artists like Beyonce can't come to Knoxville because we literally don't have enough hotel rooms for all the people who would show up for her. Like that's a thing. You just don't have the infrastructure. You can't have the thing happen.
Yeah. The international airport connecting point is actually a really interesting one for Hartfield Jackson, O'Hare, and whatever they're calling Vegas' airport now. Because they've got big
McCarran,
airports,
I think
even for how big the cities are.
Oh, I think Atlanta's is still the biggest in the world.
Atlanta's still the biggest.
Most active for sure.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Crazy huge.
I mean, I think both Chicago and Atlanta are like at least top 3 in traffic in the United States with LaGuardia / JFK. Probably JFK is bigger. And then Vegas is also enormous for how big the city is. So international travel is a major factor there. And I think that, you know, even though you don't get an international MagicCon, the ease of travel for those 3 events should hopefully ease that wound.
So, I will say also with this announcement, we did find out that the World Championships will not be at a MagicCon next year. It's going to be its own event, and they said early December 2025, and it will be another World Championship that's going to be closed off from the public. So maybe taking notes from what they did with, I guess, with the OTJ Pro Tour, where it wasn't open to the public or whatever. So maybe they found something they liked about it or the way they could handle it, because it did go over well, apparently. That maybe they're just going to run that back for Worlds.
It certainly makes it a lot easier for production reasons. You know what I mean? That, you know, you're either a competitor or you're in the crew, essentially.
Yeah.
And having that, you know, familiarity and ability to move people around and know what you can do and what you can't do. There's not going to be some rando, quote unquote, who would like mess up a shot or mess up a thing because they all know why they're here. You know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
That you run into when you have sort of just anybody come in.
I would have liked for us to be able to get back to the point where we have the one Japanese Pro Tour, the one European Pro Tour, and then the rest are American Pro Tours. I think those days are behind us. And this is even another nail in that coffin. Hopefully we can get back to having the occasional big event in either Japan or Europe, Pro Tour level event in one of those 2 cities. But I'm sure Huey is doing all he can to get that luster back on those. But for now, these are great. They're good international travel cities, even though they're in the United States for you Europeans out there.
So let's take a look here at the RCQ stuff. They were talking about the upcoming regional championship qualifiers, and they have what is arguably the horniest Mayhem Devil I have ever seen.
Hell yeah.
Bruh. Man.
Listen, do you want to sell Magic cards or not? Let's get going. Come on.
Dude, I literally had that same thought. I'm like, what's going on?
Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying.
Great.
There's vibes. There's serious vibes happening here.
I love it. I love this. This is anime manga style art. This is, I mean, by far the most attractive Mayhem Devil, possibly the most attractive devil that we have on any Magic card.
Probably.
It's pretty good. This wild force of
Skyfall.
Oh, sure. This wild force of despair is absolutely incredible. And these are promos you can get by, I believe, or playing or top 8ing the event. Depends on the setup.
I think the Mayhem Devil is the participation, and the other one is either top 8 or winning it. I don't remember. And
another big thing that was going around was that the formats for the 2025-2026 RCQ rounds is modern constructed limited, standard constructed and limited twice, meaning no no Pioneer. I was gonna say Premier, no Pioneer, and Pioneer enthusiasts are just like, what's going on? Do they hate the format? And I'm like, I think they kind of just want to push standard. Really, is what this looks like.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing too, right? We talk a lot about, oh, they need to give people a reason to play standard. They need to do this, and then they do, and everybody's like, but why can't we have this other thing? It's like,
You're ruining everything.
yeah, like we that's always been an issue with Magic. We just have so many ways to play Magic, right? And we know standard's good for business. Like, I don't think that's a secret to anybody. So it makes sense that they're going to put. Now it's weird that it wasn't like standard, modern, standard. The fact that it's modern and then standard for, I guess, 6 months or whatever.
Yeah,
it's
that
kind
was
of weird.
interesting.
Yeah. So that's the only thing that there. It feels like there's something planned there that we don't know yet, right?
Right.
Then maybe there's certain promos they had to get done, or artwork they're commissioning, or maybe something to do with one of the upcoming sets or whatever. But that scheduling feels like, okay, there's probably going to be something we find out about come like February or March or something.
Right. Well, I'm once again hoping that they mess with the formats, right? We talked several weeks ago, many weeks ago at this point, maybe even months ago, about how they set themselves up to be able to be like, here's some weird format that you could do. And they could do something like that before the event by saying, this is a extended band list event or a no ban list event, or you can play 5 of any card in this event. They've set themselves up with the rule changes and the changes to the event structure that they can do something wacky and weird like that. We haven't had a Pro Tour that was a wacky, weird format in a real long time. Like, we've had them. We've had Worlds that had Cube Draft. We've had a Pro Tour that was team limited, like team booster draft. So like they could do it. And I think for a game that's trying to not take itself as seriously in the theming of the cards, I would like for personally, and I'm happy to red zone on this, I would like for us to have wackier, wilder Pro Tour formats.
I'm not opposed to it. I think the problem, though, becomes how much would people prepare for it, and how well does that draw attention to talk about?
Sure.
Because after the event, like, okay, we see the deck list, but nobody can do anything with them. You know what I mean? Because like it's a format that doesn't really exist. You know, stuff like that. I wonder if that comes into consideration on what they're willing to do or not do.
Sure.
You know, what I would like them to explore, and that this isn't related to that, but and because, you know, I watch a lot of Counter-Strike. I like Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike is fun. And one of the things I think they really excel at is showcasing the personality of the players. And a lot of the ways they do that is through different little segments. They'll have them, you know, draw one of the guns or whatever, right? Like have them draw one of their favorite cards or draw a goblin, or let's play name that goblin or whatever. You know what I mean? Like they do little things, and including skits, written, like produced skits that are sometimes really elaborate and silly. But again, that also just kind of builds on itself, where you'll talk about these classic skits that they can run as little pieces of entertainment between matches and whatnot. And that helps sort of like build what, for lack of a better word, the lore of these players and what they bring to the game, you know, event by event.
Man, I'm with you, but I just feel like a lot of them just don't have enough personality. And that's not to hate on them. They're great Magic players, but they're not entertainers and performers.
But what you find, because I'm a man who has done this, you got to go find them. They're out there.
Sure,
you know?
sure.
People
I agree.
that will give you the LSV, you know, the Chapin charm. Like they are out there. You got to go find them, and it's going to take a while, and you're going to have some hits and misses. But when you hit, I think it's going to be fantastic. And it's one thing. There was always this power struggle of focus on the cards, not focusing on the players as much. Because if you focus on the players, something bad can happen and so on. But like, I just think it misses a huge part of what makes that high level play so cool is loving those players. When you love a sport to a great degree, you don't just love the sport. You know what I mean? Like you don't just love what a baseball looks like. You love your favorite players playing it.
I feel like we have done that a bit though. Like we did a whole Pro Tour where we like followed like Reed Duke, right?
It was
like
Grand Prix, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Right before the world ended. It was amazing.
We had LSV who like played and then didn't make the cut, and then he was in the booth doing commentary or whatever the next day, right? Like, so we have some personalities out there that we are pushing and doing stuff with. I just don't know how much players care.
Yeah.
I
Like,
think you'd
because
be
we
surprised.
went through the whole thing of putting player cards and booster packs and stuff for
Yeah.
I don't know, like 5 years or something,
Right.
and those never really went anywhere. So like, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. I'm with you. I think it keeps feeling like there's something there, but I don't even know. Even if we figure it out, what's the end benefit at
Well,
this
to
point?
me, the end benefit is building the community of the game of on a high level, on a appreciate Magic on a high level is to appreciate the players who play on it at a high level. Like I can't appreciate a game of golf being played the best way without focusing on the people who do it. Does that make sense? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like
Sure.
I can love a game, but to me personally, I love a game when I see it done very well, no matter what it is, right? And that's why the Olympics are cool. But like, if we're going to do it very well, and you can at the same time have all these great personalities that are out there, you can find they're all flying into this one city at this one time. You can have a whole day of just a media day. That's what they do in Counter Strike, for example. Where they just film them and they interview them and they ask them questions and they build their skits and they do all this crap and then they just pepper that stuff throughout the weekend. And again, you have a whole library of that stuff over time. But let's keep moving here. We're gonna move out of the first pick to gather the townsfolk. Thanks to our sponsor, Mana Traders, best tool to enhance your Magic Online experience. Use the code MagicMikes_IQJ. That's _IQJ for 10% off your next subscription with Mana Traders. Tell them we sent you. We appreciate them sponsoring the show. And don't get me started about Counter Strike. Okay. That said, let's move on here to something else. It's really cool. It's happening in just a few days on Friday at 3:30 p.m. in room 409 at the New York Comic Con. There will be a Magic the Gathering Marvel panel. It's the first place where Magic and Marvel fans can catch a glimpse of what's coming. And that is exciting stuff. And we will definitely be talking about that next week.
Yeah, that's to be expected. I mean, with the Comic Con, it's an easy layup, right? They need to get their announcements in. And I'm sure they'll probably show, I would guess, 5 to 8 cards. And then they'll probably save something for the following week, Vegas, whatever. So we're probably going to get inundated with, I would guess, probably around 25, 30 cards between now and the end of Vegas. So we'll have plenty to talk about over the next couple of weeks, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. They're going to be pumping a lot, I can imagine. And as I understand it, at least sort of the way it's working out right now, it looks like there's gonna be a pretty condensed spoiler season for Foundations. Like
Sure.
just like pop, 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 Foundations.
Yeah, good.
Well, yeah, well, half of it's going to be old cards anyway.
Right. So
Yeah.
there's only so much you can get excited about seeing a reprint. Reprints are great. I love reprints, but it's generally the new stuff that'll get the most hype. So
Right. And
curious.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And like we were, you brushed past this before we got into the first pick, but I will once again say I, for one, am grateful for the endless spoiler season having ended for at least a small amount of time.
Small amount.
And that we get this breather and we get this slow news week and we don't have to talk about every preview every single time. We'll talk about a few Marvel cards, and we'll talk about a few Foundations cards, but even that is pretty slow compared to what we've been going through over the spring and summer. So I'm happy.
Yeah, it's been a lot, all these years, honestly, the past, 3 or 4 years, of just trying to keep up with product after product after product and what that means and yada, 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 But we get a little slowdown. I'm okay with that. I'm all right with that. Speaking of, we do have some congratulations in the community. Caleb Durward, Caleb DMTG, is going to get married. Let's go. That's super awesome. Bringing it up here on the screen. Had a pretty good day, he said. She said yes. Rachel Weeks also said after 4 years of love and magic, Summy Tummies and them are getting engaged, and that's awesome. So congratulations to those peeps, and I hope they have a fantastic time with their engagement.
Yeah. I see Rachel relatively often over at Brian and Olivia's house for Commander Night.
Nice.
And obviously both she and her husband are there and members of the community. And so that's lovely to see. Caleb got married to someone named Marika, which is my sister's name. And that's not the world's most common name. So that's very exciting.
Oh, well, man, it's always cool just to see like nerds finding love out there somewhere, because we talk a lot, growing up, a lot of us were kids last picked and stuff, and like you were in your nerdy books and doing all your things, and it's like, nah, we're enjoying life now.
Yeah.
Like nerds got the upper hand. It's good stuff.
Nice. Well, that is always fantastic to hear, and wish them nothing but the best. There was a funny little silly thing, and we're in the market this week for funny, silly little things that showed up. And one of the funny little silly things showed up was someone said, "Hey, what is the card with the most reprints without new artwork?" And there's one. It has 18 printings. If you've not looked yet, do you have any idea what card it is?
Uh,
I think
I
you
know
might
the
look.
answer because I looked.
Right.
I've seen this.
So if you haven't seen it, Power Dragon.
I think I knew what it was before that.
So most printings with no new art. I'm trying to think of what else I would have picked had I not seen what the answer is.
22 years worth. Chat, feel free to put your.
Oh, it's the
guesses.
the cycling boar,
That's
right? That guy,
Croson Tusker.
I love that card.
18 printings, and they're just
I wouldn't have guessed the
beautiful.
number was that high. I would have
Yeah.
said like
Perfect.
I love
12 to
Croson Tusker.
14 or something.
I know,
Good.
right?
I
18
love
is
that
fun.
card.
That's a beautiful piece of artwork. Sometimes you just get it right. Sometimes Kev Walker just crushes it, and you're like, we don't need any more Croson Tusker art.
That is kind of crazy. 18 times the same artwork. That's pretty wild.
You get like giant spiders and dark rituals and stone rains, and they get a new art every 5 seconds.
They do.
Yeah.
You get a couple that like were pretty consistent there for a little while, Wrath of God and but like you don't get a run like Croson Tusker.
I wonder if now Wizards goes like, "Oh, you're right. We need to update that artwork." And then we're getting no more Croson
What a shame.
Tuskers.
What a shame that would be.
We shouldn't have brought it up at all.
That's right.
Oops, we're in Gather the Townsfolk. All right, so we're gonna move on here to Desperate Ravings. This is an interesting stat that showed up over this past week. Now, look, if you go to mtggoldfish.com, they have a really cool tool to show you the metagame of any given format. The percentage of whatever deck is being played in said format. And what you see over time when formats get broken, quote unquote, is that, these percentages really jump up super high. Like Eldrazi Winter had almost 30% of the modern meta format just be that deck. Like that was it. Nadu, which absolutely destroyed and finally got banned and was a serious problem, that eked over 15%, more like 16%. Okay, cool. Boros Energy is over 30%. That is the highest number.
No,
the highest we've ever seen.
I saw this earlier in the week, and there is something to the methodology that does change that slightly.
Yeah.
Okay.
That like previously they were putting up like one deck in a deck dump if it was like a bunch of one type, whereas now they're just putting all the decks that are 5/0 in there. So you will have some that appear multiple times compared to some others only appearing once.
Right.
Now, that being said, that maybe only brings it down like 6% or something. But, but it's still a lot.
Yeah, that was during the Hogak era.
Yeah.
So Hogak's numbers would maybe be, let's say, twice as big, 3 times as big. It's still shorter. Even if you 3x'd Hogak, it would still be not as big as Energy is right now. The Eldrazi bump here also includes all of the Eldrazi versions, which is interesting. Energy also does that, but Energy really has 2 types, right? It's got red-white and it's got red-white-black, as far as I'm aware.
It's got like the control-ish version, and then you have the Boros aggro version.
Right.
Yeah.
And
to my mind, Bloodbraid Elf Jund was like the poster child for this is too many of a deck in a format. This is too much of a format to be played by one deck. And it's sitting at 23%. Eldrazi Winter, we all look at as like a big problem. That was almost 30%. And now we've got Boros Energy above 30. So I agree.
Some amount
and
is in the reporting, and some amount as in like it is definitely being played a ton.
Oh,
Sure.
yeah.
And both things can be true.
Right. And for me, it is the clear best deck in the format, and it is, we are rapidly. I mean, it's going to take another Modern Horizons 4 or whatever, but it is Modern Horizons constructed for a majority of it because those sets literally are made to push boundaries and push efficiencies. But yeah, their energy is broken. Energy is not a balanced mechanic. They have tried. Hell, they thought it was balanced the first time, and that was toned down in Amonkhet or Aether Revolt and Kaladesh. This is bananas. These cards have rates that are insane. I don't know what the rates were supposed to be, but they weren't the ones that printed on the cards.
I
Right.
feel like the last time I felt like, and it was a long time ago, would have probably been during like the Arcbound Ravager, whatever. Like that was super prevalent, even at like the F&M level.
Oh yeah.
It was
Yes.
just everywhere. And some of that I think is also like accessibility because several parts of that combo were commons and uncommons because of the lands and whatever. So, much easier to acquire the deck,
Yeah.
which in some cases is a little bit of probably what's happening with the energy deck as well. It's not like when I guess like Callblade is running around, not everybody's going to be able to go drop, $500, $600 on 4 Jaces or
Plus, it
whatever,
was a
right?
very hard deck to play.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas that's not the case with this deck. So
Right.
kind of makes
When
sense.
like what was it? Blue Jund or whatever it was, whenever that deck was popular, not everybody had $100 to spend on 4 Vryn's Prodigies and Painful Truths and a bunch
Yeah.
of the rare lands and stuff. This is a much cheaper deck to build than most, particularly compared to those others in the format.
And I think we're just going to see that whenever a new Modern Horizons set comes out, we're going to highlight their biggest mistakes. Like it's almost bound to happen at this point. Nadu was a giant mess, and this basically kind of hid behind Nadu because Nadu was so busted and so ridiculous. They're like, oh, I'm just a silly energy deck. I'm not trying to break things in half. I'm just doing it more efficiently than anybody else does. And that gives you an advantage that no other deck can provide you. And I was just shocked. So again, I appreciate the context of they're reporting more, so the numbers might be higher. But also, it is a clear, now that we have more data, we can also see that it is a clearly highly played deck in the format. And that is often, signs that something needs to be done about it, as it were.
Yeah.
Moving on here to some going infinite. Let's talk about some what ifs, some maybes. Mark Rosewater mentioned on his Tumblr that the 1 Planeswalker per set limit towards Planeswalkers in those new sets is being revised after the last year of restriction. This comes after a recent polling from Wizards that showed that 60% of players through there should be at least, or thought there should be at least 2 to 3% as opposed to just 1. And he mentioned that he was not surprised by the survey, and mentioned it as a general rule that their only option that it's not their only option when it comes to set design. My take on this is 100% they should be making more Planeswalkers. I'm sorry they can't be commanders. You should just make Planeswalkers commanders, quite frankly, because I understand that there's, somebody's in a room at one point going, well, these are very important characters, but these very important characters cannot be your commander unless we make a special commander version. And then all of a sudden, everyone's losing their spark all of a sudden. And then there's less Planeswalkers, which are some of the coolest cards in the game. And so I don't know. Is that what's happening? Because that's what it feels like is happening.
I need to get me an actual tinfoil hat made.
Mm-hmm. Put it on nice and tight.
Yep. I think for me, there's 2 things here. One is it sort of feels like maybe R&D also wanted some time to reevaluate how they make Planeswalkers, right? Because it's probably hard to do like at least 1 green Planeswalker a year, if not 2, that does more than like make a beast or an insect. Untap a land. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's probably like, okay, hey, let's go back to the well. Let's come up with some other things so we can make some different types of Planeswalkers. So if we're going to do them, keep them fresh, original, whatever. Also, we have some other branded stuff coming out with some very powerful characters next year that they might want some number of them to be Planeswalkers.
Sure.
Like, just saying. I don't know if they'll do it. Because there may be brand issues or whatever where certain things can't be represented certain ways.
I
think that's
they
fine.
said with D&D, they made Planeswalkers in D&D, and then they later said they regretted it, and that the Planeswalkers were only going to be in Magic stuff and not Worlds Beyond.
But people like them, so
Universes Beyond, because there's been no Universes Beyond Planeswalkers ever since, right?
Not yet,
right? Not yet. I mean,
but
I would argue Doctor Strange would be a sick Planeswalker, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm just saying, Doctor Strange, like Legion would be a good one.
Yeah,
he's that level of powerful, right? Or
Legion,
hell, I don't know, Onslaught, right?
Like, Legion would be the guy Legion would be in Commander decks to play Plane Chase and make the planes change or whatever.
Nice.
That would make sense.
A random plane every turn. That would be sick. That would be sick. So yeah, they got some opportunities, but for me, I definitely miss the ability to get excited about multiple Planeswalkers. Like we might see 1, but now 1 is all we're getting.
Yeah, and
Well-
I don't think it needs to be every set, right? Like if we get this set only has one, this set has 2 or 3, this one has 2, this one has 1, like where it makes sense and fits for the story, cool. I don't have a problem with it.
And I also wouldn't mind if they just reprinted some Planeswalkers at this point. Like,
Yeah.
you can make one new one and then put 2 or 3 in the set with new art. Maybe
Sure.
you do something different with it, but like, you know, if they're worried about design space, there are ways to mitigate that if they actually want to get more Planeswalkers into the set.
Man, give me the OG Garrick Wild Speaker.
That's actually the one I was thinking of too.
Make
I
a
love that
beast and
card.
overrun. Give it
right.
to
I
me.
mean, I would really appreciate, you know, if anything, just iterations, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, give me Garrick Wildspeaker, but in 2024. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, maybe it has some Phyrexian mana in there. Maybe it has a different ability that's just slightly different. You know, just slightly changed. Because you don't necessarily have to reinvent the whole wheel. You can just be like, okay, here's Garrick, you know, one step forward. Like after something happened in the story, you know, he doesn't make a beast, he makes a so-and-so or something.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or the numbers are different or whatever.
Make a 5-mana version of Jace the Mind Sculptor that has slightly more starting loyalty
Sure.
and a slightly different number palette.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think that'd be fine.
That would be kind of cool too. And yeah, so going infinite, we're talking about options, about ideas, and I would love to see something like that, and we'll see how it goes. We're going to turn the corner here to the finisher. Now, this week, thanks to BWheelerMTG, the popular sports media personality Stephen A. Smith responded to a tweet asking him whether he'd pick a Black Lotus or a Soul Ring first in a vintage cube draft, and Stephen A. responded wonderfully, just based on how epic the original Fiery Rings art was to choose Soul Ring. So tell me, what's something you know nothing about, but you're first picking based solely on vibes, Ruben?
Have you guys seen that clip, by the way?
Oh, yeah.
It's
You
great.
gotta,
Like,
I
and
mean,
he gives
you
it
haven't seen
real
that clip.
thought when he's selecting. That's what makes it even better.
What was that?
He gives it real thought while he's
does.
picking.
He
Like,
And
takes
makes
it
the right
seriously.
choice. Yeah, and it's great.
It was incredible work out of Stephen A. What a professional. Well, I know nothing about Power Dragon's favorite hobby, if your social media is anything to be to be followed, which is team fight tactics. Because I know nothing about League of Legends nor auto battlers. But based solely on vibes, I am first picking Jinx because I have a type.
Power Dragon?
Well, to be fair, I know nothing about Evan's favorite hobby, which happens to be Counter-Strike, which we all know. So I'm going to first pick Dmitry Sokolov, because while Evan talks about Simple and Zywoo always being great, and he covers them in Counter-Strike, I can't pass up someone named after the best MTG dog of all time, Shiro.
And Shiro's a very good player, by the way. He's an excellent player. He's been on Cloud9. He's a really good opper. It's great. Now, I know nothing about Ruben's favorite hobby of LARPing. Absolutely zero. But of all the stuff I could pick, I'm first picking the ability to use mana, because no matter where I am or who I'm pretending to be, there's nothing better than magic.
Oh,
That's right.
And that ends another live episode of Magic Mics. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things magic. Thank you, Power Dragon.
Hey, good to be here. And if anybody's going to be in Vegas, come find me, because I have some sweet new tokens to hand out to you.
Nice. Thank you, Ruben.
Hey, thanks. And if anybody, I don't imagine this is the right crowd for this, but I'll be at Big Bad Con at the end of this month. That is a indie games convention in the Bay Area. I'll be there with one of my fellow game designers for the tabletop role-playing game that we are designing. Come on by.
Very nice. And I'll be right here. Y'all just hit me up.
Great.
I'm hanging out.
Don't go to Evan's house, though.
Don't go to my house. That's weird. You know, say hi on Twitter or something. We're going to move on here to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com. Use the promo code MagicMics to save 5% off that. Our co-sponsor, Mana Traders, my co-host, Power Dragon, and Ruben Bressler. You guys for watching and listening. I hope you support us at patreon.com/MagicMics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us on our exclusive member Discord, live on twitch.tv at MagicMics, live or taped on our YouTube. Join us on Twitter at MagicMicsCast and TikTok at MagicMicsCast. Or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.